In John 13, verse 21, the Bible says something we almost skip. Look closer. Leonardo da Vinci painted The Last Supper in 1495. For 500 years, people argued about conspiracy. They missed the gospel. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just paint a dinner. He painted that troubled moment. And he hid 7 secrets inside that explain the entire gospel. Not codes, but gospel sermons. Every symbol explains why Jesus had to die and why you can come home. Let's decode them one by one. If you see them, you'll never read John 13 the same way. Secret 1. The spilled salt. Look at Judas's elbow, right there. 4th from the left, dark blue robe, clutching the bag. That's Judas. He's the only one with his elbow on the table. Disrespect. And right in front of that elbow, that tiny overturned dish, that's not a crumb, that's a salt cellar. Salt spilled on the white tablecloth. For us, spilling salt is just bad luck. For Leonardo's crowd, a spilled salt shaker near your hand was a classic symbol of treachery and bad luck. But for Jesus' world, it was heavier. Leviticus 2 verse 13 says, "Every offering shall be seasoned with salt, the salt of the covenant." Salt wasn't flavor. Salt was covenant, friendship, loyalty that preserves. In the Middle East, people ate salt together when they were friends. When you shared salt at a table, you were saying, "I will not harm you. We are bound." That's why the Bible calls it a covenant of salt that should not be broken. And what does Judas do? He doesn't throw it. He elbows it. This overturned salt cellar next to Judas's right arm, spilled without even looking down, careless, without caring. The man about to break the ultimate covenant can't even keep the salt of friendship on the table. Broken covenant, forfeited loyalty. The gospel in one detail. Man breaks covenant. God doesn't. He stays at the table even after you spill the salt. Secret 2. Converging hands. Jesus and Judas reaching for same dish. Look at the middle of the table. Not Jesus' face, his hands. Blue, that's Jesus' right hand, reaching for a dish. Red, that's Judas's right hand, reaching for the same dish. Yellow, same moment, same dish. This isn't an accident. This is a prophecy being painted. The night he was betrayed, Jesus said, "He who has dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me." Matthew 26, verse 23. In that culture, sharing a dish wasn't like passing the salt. If you ate from the same bowl, you were family, intimate, trusted, brother. And Leonardo freezes the exact second it happens. Judas isn't across the room plotting. He's right beside Jesus, leaning in, hand in the same bowl. Intimacy weaponized. Look at the bodies. Everyone else is pulling away in shock. Judas is pushing in, toward Jesus, toward the dish, while Jesus is still offering it. That's what betrayal looks like. It's never a stranger. It's someone close enough to share your plate. Real talk. Jesus knew. He knew which hand was coming for the dish, and he didn't pull the dish away. He let the traitor eat. He let the betrayer dip. He fed the hand that would hand him over. That's not weakness. That's what love does when it knows it's about to be broken. Same dish. 2 hands, one loves, one leaves. Secret 3, Peter's knife, clutched behind back, foreshadows garden. Look behind Judas, not at Judas, behind him. See that? In Peter's hand? A knife. clutched, white knuckle, blade up. At the dinner table, at the Last Supper. This is not on the menu. John 13 says, there at supper, Jesus washing feet, breaking bread. No one should have a weapon at the table. But Peter, impulsive, zealous Peter, already has a blade in his fist behind Judas's back. Why? Because Judas just said he's going to betray Jesus, and Peter is not having it. Leonardo is foreshadowing. Hours later in Gethsemane, same Peter will pull this same knife and cut off Malchus's ear, John 18:10, trying to stop the arrest. Jesus will have to say, "Put your sword away." But Leonardo shows you, the violence didn't start in the garden. It started at the table. Real talk. Peter loves Jesus, but his love has a knife in it. He wants to defend Jesus by hurting someone, and Jesus will let him sit at the table anyway. Look at Peter's other hand. It's on John's shoulder, pushing him toward Jesus, whispering, "Ask who it is." One hand seeks truth, the other hand holds a weapon. That's us. We want to defend God with blades. God wants to defend us with bread. The knife never saved anyone at that table. The broken bread did. Secret 4, Thomas's raised finger pointing up, foreshadows doubt. See that? Right next to Jesus, green robe, one finger up. Everyone else has hands on hearts. Thomas has a finger to heaven. The Bible calls him Didymus, the twin, but history calls him Doubting Thomas. And here, at the Last Supper, before the cross, before the empty tomb, Leonardo already shows you who he is. While Judas reaches for bread and Peter grabs a knife, Thomas points up, like he's saying, "Wait, are we talking about heavenly things? Are we talking about betrayal, God?" John 20. Thomas wasn't there when Jesus appeared risen. The disciples say, "We have seen the Lord." Thomas says, "Unless I put my finger in the holes, I won't believe it." Same finger. Leonardo paints the finger that will need to touch the wound, already raised a week before the wound exists. Real talk. Thomas isn't a villain. He's us. He loves Jesus enough to stay at the table when Judas is about to leave. But he loves truth enough to say, "I don't get it. Explain it again. Show me." We shame doubt in church. Jesus didn't. At supper, he lets the doubter point. After resurrection, he lets the doubter touch. Leonardo knew faith that can't ask a question isn't faith, it's performance. Thomas's finger up is not rebellion, it's a question mark. And God leaves space for question marks at his table. That finger that points up in doubt will be the finger that touches the scar and says, "My Lord and my God." Doubt, if you bring it to the table, can become worship. Secret 5. Groups of 3. 4 trios plus 3 windows equals Trinity. Count. Don't look at faces yet, count groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 groups. Each group, 3 men. 3 times 4 is 12. The 12 apostles. But 3 is everywhere. Behind Jesus, 3 windows, 3 lights, not one big window. 3 separate lights, becoming one light behind his head. Father, Son, Spirit, Trinity in architecture. And Jesus sits in front of the center window, but his head doesn't block the light halos him. Leonardo is saying, the light comes through him. Now look at Jesus' shape. Everyone else is leaning, diagonal, chaotic. Jesus is a triangle. Head up, hands down, stable. In sacred geometry, triangle is God. Perfect, unmoving, balanced. In a room where everything is falling apart because of one sentence, "One of you will betray me," one shape stays stable. That's theology without words. Real talk? You feel alone in chaos? Leonardo says, look again. You're never alone. You're in a trio. God put you in a group of 3 even when you feel isolated. And above your drama, there are 3 windows still letting light in. Betrayal is at the table, yes, but Trinity is behind the table. The painting has 13 men, but the math is 3. Because even when one leaves, Judas, the 3 remains. The Trinity doesn't break when people break. That's why Jesus can be calm. He's not held by the 12. The 12 are held by the 3 behind him. Your life may have 4 groups of chaos, but there are 3 windows that never close. Secret 6, Equilateral Triangle. Jesus in perfect divine geometry. Look at Jesus, not his face, his shape. Head top, hands bottom, 2 sides down, perfect triangle. Everyone else leans, Jesus stands, everyone else moves. Jesus is geometry. Leonardo didn't guess this, he measured it. In his notebooks he writes, the triangle is divine because its 3 sides are equal, just as God is 3 yet 1. Equilateral triangle was his symbol for God, stable, unchanging, perfect. So at the moment when he says, one of you will betray me, when the room erupts, one man stays triangular, stable when everything shakes. That's not just composition. That's Christology. And check this. All the lines in the room, ceiling beams, window tops, tapestry edges, they all vanish into Jesus' right temple. The whole building points to his head. The triangle is not in the room. The room is built around the triangle. 3 windows behind him, triangle in front of him, heaven behind, divinity in front. Real talk. Your life doesn't feel triangular. It feels like the apostles, leaning, reaching, arguing, shocked. But Leonardo's secret is, stability isn't the absence of chaos around you. It's geometry inside you. Jesus isn't calm because nothing's happening. He's calm because he's triangular when everyone else is diagonal. He knows who he is. Head to heaven, hands to earth, base wide enough to hold betrayal and still not fall. You don't need the room to stop shaking. You need to be a triangle in a shaking room. 3 points. Who you are, whose you are, why you're here. If those 3 are equal, you can have a Judas at your table and still not lose your shape. The world will try to make you lean. God made you to be a pyramid. Secret 7. Shadowed profile. Judas cast in darkness, separation from light. Scan every face. Light on Andrew, light on Peter, light on John leaning on Jesus, light on Thomas, light on all. One face, dark, Judas. The only one Leonardo casts in shadow while sitting in the same room, same light. Why? Leonardo knows light in Renaissance painting is not lighting, it's theology. Light is truth, is fellowship, is God. Shadow is separation. Judas is at the table but not in the light. Physically present, spiritually absent. He shares the bread. You see his hand reaching for the same dish as Jesus, but his face is already turned away. John writes, and it was night, not 9 p.m., night in his soul. Check the windows. 3 windows behind Jesus, light pouring over his head onto everyone. The light should hit Judas too, but Judas leans forward, tilts down so the light misses him. He does it to himself. Light is available, he angles away from it. Leonardo is saying, darkness is not something that happens to you, it's something you turn toward. Real talk, you know that feeling? Sitting at a table full of people, everyone laughing, light on, and you feel dark inside? That's Judas's secret. Proximity is not intimacy. You can sit next to Jesus and still be in night. We love to point at Judas as villain, but Leonardo paints him as warning. His shadow isn't demon possession, it's choice. One small turn of the head away from light, and suddenly you're the only dark face in a bright room. And here's grace. Jesus still gives him the morsel, still shares the dish. In this painting, Jesus' right hand offers bread toward Judas, while Judas' hand reaches toward Jesus. Light reaches toward shadow even when shadow won't look up. John 13:30 says, "He went out, and it was night." But in this second, night is still at the table, and Jesus still feeds it. If you feel like the shadowed profile tonight, the light is still on your side of the table. You just have to turn. Today, Jesus is still at the table, and there is still a seat. If this opened your eyes, share it. Someone needs to know. Leonardo hid the gospel in art 500 years ago because God wanted you to find it today.